Welcome to everybody who is new. Welcome back to everybody who's been listening. Thanks for all the new listeners that came on board this week. Remember, guys, you could jump in at any episode. You don't have to go in order. It's not one of them series on Netflix where if you don't see episode one, you can figuring out what's going on. Jump in at any time. Join the conversation. It's good to have you guys on. Again, we're available everywhere. Podcasts available. For those who enjoying it, please like and share and subscribe. I'm talking like the youths, right? Like, share, and subscribe, and all these nice things. And uh, after I bombard everybody on my social media for the last week, I get some advice from my partners at Cadence. That's my boy Kevin Farrick and Chumley again. They tell me, listen, you got to create your socials and make sure you brand out your page and everything. So, guys, I have a new Facebook page, Corey Shepherd Podcast on Facebook. Same with Instagram, Corey Shepherd Podcast. On Twitter is the Corey Shepherd. You get it? Corey Shepherd. It can't be that. How creative we could really be. It don't get much more creative than that. So follow me on them things to keep updated and really just give your feedback or contribute to what happened in the conversation. And I'll respond to those. I've been doing a poor job. I didn't realize all the time that there were people commenting on the Libsyn link. And I just stumbled upon it this week and doing some research on Libsyn sites. So I respond to all of them. But at least with this one, I've linked all the new Instagram and the new Facebook page and the new Twitter page, or what's called Twitter page. I've linked all of it to when the podcast drops. So any comments you have, it should go automatically on Facebook. And then we could join the conversation and give you all some feedback. I remember saying in the first episode, I don't want to hear anybody. I had to say, I kind of changed my mind about that. There's not much that I enjoy more than hearing what people think about the episodes. And let me say this, right? I've accepted that it's impossible for me to figure out what people enjoy and what people like and what people find funny or what people find sad. I have no idea. The things that I find is the funniest parts of the episode, nobody will ever talk about that. And some things are just throwaway lines and things that wasn't even planned. A lot of people tell me about that. So I had to start this episode with a little bit of story about this podcast. I went this week and I had to fix up myself. I have a partner who had to go and fix up myself for. I'll talk about that in a little bit. So I gone by the barber, maybe for the first time in a while, right? And my barber, salute Ronald Rosie Rosales. So everybody know Ronald in St. James, right? I call it out your whole government name. I wish I'd know your middle name to call it out too. And normal thing, you go by Ronald, you make your appointment, Ronald go and fix you up and sort you out right. You know what I mean? I get too old to go by barbers where I had to wait the whole... You remember when you used to go by the barber and wait the whole day? 6, 7 men. When you reach, it's like how much men in front of me? It's like 8. And you just sit down there and you talk whole day and you get kicks and drinks come. And I get too old for that. I need to know when I reach by the barber, I could get a haircut one time. I cannot stay the whole day by the barber. And Ronald's hooked me up with that. It's no problem. You call, you get your appointment. I think he's worked by appointment only. It's great. So I went the normal story. I went to a little old talk. We shoot a blag. Started trimming everything. And when I'm done and I looking to leave now, Ronald, anybody know Ronald? No, Ronald is one of the quietest people. Ronald don't really say too much when you're ready. And he say, boy, I have something to show you. I want to show you a video. So I thinking, all right, let me see what this is. That'll be something funny or something good. And I start watching this video, right? And the video is about people in India. And the thing is, they're showing you where some people in India believe in the sacred nature of the cow. And the people believe that everything about the cow is sacred, including urine and excrement and the full works. They believe that it's sacred. So I see a man put a glass by a cow. The cow take a leak. He take a drink. I say, well, all right, what kind of weird thing is this? Ronald into some weird stuff here. I was getting a little worried and I want to run out the shop. I say, me no Ronald. You have a little freak side. I know what's going on here. Next thing you know, I see a man in a hole. What's it called, boy? Like a bath, like a tank of cow dung. The real McCoy. And that man is taking a dive, taking a full swim. And I say, Ronald, where is this? Ronald say, I was listening to your podcast, right? And I hear you bad talking Christopher Columbus. I want to tell you, leave Columbus alone. I'm very glad Columbus bring me here because this is why I would have to be going through if I was in India. So it's one of the fun. Listen, I couldn't stop laughing. I trying to figure out what this man showed me this for me and realize he referring to episode since way back. So I've taken on board everybody's feedback and the response has been great. As I said, for a few weeks now, it's been overwhelming. It's more than I expected. So keep it coming. If you follow on Facebook and the IG and on Twitter, just it would be great to hear your comments on the episode, and let me adjust as I go along, and let me send all my apologies to Ronald. I'll put back Columbus statues where they were, and everybody will be good, right? I don't want you to go back to. And I mean, the same thing could happen down here, you know. If that is the kind of thing you're into, we could get somebody to arrange that. We could get somebody to sort out that if that's something you have in your mind. Don't worry yourself. It's 2020. Where we into, you could find somebody who could get it for you. You're safe. Don't worry about it. So other than that, I mean, the reason I went by Ronald, I had a little, listen, last week Friday was supposed to be Christmas in July, and I like my parang and my little music and my Christmas vibes and everything, but boy, the COVID start kicking up again and numbers spreading, and I start to remember what happened to me by Cooper, and when I drink what go happen. So boy, I duck out of a little Christmas in July lime that we have every year. A good friend of mine in the parang side, every year she does a full Christmas. So when you go there, the Christmas tree up, the lights and everything. She make ham. She do up some pork. It's pastel. She's do a full spread. And boy, I sorry I had to duck out of that. I was looking forward to just playing some music, and I feel a part of this thing with being home, or not being home so much, because more or less I in work most days, or a couple of days a week I go in the office and working from home for the rest. But it's like you need to break the monotony of this new normal or this new routine where you could find yourself home all the time and nothing going on, and no lime, no party, nothing. And it's not that I go on lime and things so much, but I was really looking forward to that. And boy, when I see the numbers, I say, you know what? Maybe it's not worth it for me to go nowhere and drink and lime and them thing, and then I regretting it a month or two down the road. And the next thing is now Saturday morning. I had exciting Saturday because a good partner of mine, Ansel, I call him full government, Ansel Duncan. Man tidy not on Saturday, so congratulations to Ansel and Ron Duncan. I was honored to be a groomsman in their wedding, in their nuptials on Saturday. And even that was an interesting experience because we spoke, we talking all going up to the thing. And then when I saw last week, the Prime Minister had to make an address on Friday, and rumor have it that the place locking down again. I was starting to get worried now. I say, boy, this man's supposed to get married tomorrow. If this place locked down again, what's the situation? I wasn't sure if we would still be able to. I mean, I know, knowing Ansel, I think he would have still go through with the ceremony, even if it was, they just need two of them and a witness from what I understand. So, and I know my place. If I am bound to be there, once the thing go down, I happy for him, you know. But gratefully, they made an announcement saying 25 people in congregating have to go down to 10. So, well, now I say for sure off the list. My new wedding party, so I tell myself I'm inside still, but I feel like off the list, you know what I mean? Because by the time you count family members and things, it's plenty more important people in both of them life than me. So I studying, well, boy, I had to find a next source of liquor on the weekend. But then the boss say 25 if you congregate outside. Oh no, he bring it down to 10 if you're congregating outside. But if you're indoors and your place have enough space, you could have any amount once you could social distance. Well, listen, I am not the brightest bulb in the bulb box or wherever they keep bulb. But I didn't know. I was so confused by that because I thinking to myself, indoors, you have a higher risk of. I thinking of you have to forgive me because remember that I don't know nothing about this, me no doctor. But I liken it as a virus to the flu. And if I know people are the flu, I could lie with you outside and keep a little distance from you. But I don't want to lie with you inside. I find there's an odd one. But he said inside you could do what you had to do. And then somebody specifically asked about churches, somebody in the media. And they said, no, if the church could hold enough people, you could do your distancing and stuff. So I was glad to hear that. We talking in WhatsApp group and everything was on. So Saturday we went down and listen, it was a real nice wedding. Bride and groom, everybody looked great. The groom's men, we look good. I want to put it there too. So, you know, sometimes you go in a wedding. If you was ever a groomsman, you'd be a little worried. I'm sure women more worried than us when they make it. What you call the people? Groomswomen? Bridesmaids? The ladies. I sure they'd be more worried than us because I study now. Boy, listen, when people call you to be groomsman, you ain't know what kind of suit them gonna put you in. You just lahe looking all how hang up in a old cheap suit. And now you have to be in all the pictures. So for the rest of your life, you have to see yourself in this cheap, shiny suit or some kind of shirt looking like, you know what I mean? Because me the star of the show is the star of the show. So he had to look good. He had to stand out and she had to stand out. But sometimes when it's standing out, you just end up in a kind of shade as a groomsman or a best man. It's a nice, but boy, until sort you out nice. Until the suits look sharp. I find me and the fellas look good. The bridesmaids and them look good. Everybody was nice. Mommy, everybody in the church looking nice. And the church had the social distancing protocol in place where there had a certain amount of people to a pew. You had to wash your hands before you go in. You had to leave your name. They take your temperature before you go in and thing. Everything was in order. I think they do a real good job. You could see where. No, I'm talking about this now because this is, I can't tell you the last time I go to church. It had to be some kind of wedding to find me in a church. So I now see the church protocol. So forgive me for all who go into the church all the time and know this already. It's a whole new world to me. So they take your temperature. They write down your name, your address, your phone number, everything. They take everything. So I suppose if something was to happen, they know how to contact trace and where to find everybody. And I remember the priest saying too that the Ministry of Health checks on churches often. So that's good. I mean, it's nice to know that those kind of safeguards in place and we're doing our thing. But all in all, a real nice day. And I mean, nothing but congratulations to Ansel. Ansel is a special fella to me, Ansel, I know he's the first person I ever know before I know. Because we were on campus together, all of us as partners, and Ansel is just a cool dude. He's super cool. But I keep watching him and I'm telling myself I know Ansel from somewhere. And it takes years, all after we leave UWI, to figure out, well, where I know Ansel from. When I realized where it was, Ansel used to be, if anybody remember Elder's classes. Elder had classes on, back in the day, it used to be on the main road in St. James, just opposite KFC. And yeah, 10 minutes in, we had a guy at St. James mentioning early. We can't wait too late to talk about St. James. But yeah, Elder used to be opposite KFC in St. James. And then he had his own building with I think it's Pembroke Street, boy. And I used to go lessons there to do A-level economics, which A-level done hard already. This new A-levels these youths doing now, different to GCE A-level. GCE A-levels is the hardest set of exams I ever do. And them time I in Mr. Elder class, and we're doing my econ, but I sharp. I know my econ, I know my work. So I coming in there early, and Elder is a man, if you know Elder balling at people, embarrassing you, he wasn't easy. I remember a fella had a little cokey eye. Elder used to call him, man, hey, Kinkai, man, you with your Kinkai. I said, but this man, I know, them men couldn't survive this era, with people sensitive and thing. Them would not survive and we would not survive. But in them classes, I looking forward to going there on a Saturday morning because I'm sharp, I'm doing my work, I have all my homework done and things. So I coming in cool, me making no fuss and thing, but I come in to shine on people. And then this fella used to come in late every week. And the man have a slow crawl. So when I watch him, I don't size him up. I say, nah, a slow man. Slow man could never. Slow man, and he done, what hour you reaching? You ain't have much going on. So I just waiting for Elder to embarrass slow man. But every time Elder asks a question, that slow man hand going up. Slow man had the answer. Slow man reasoning on point. I said, well, where did slow man come from, boy? I was in control of this class because, hey, you gotta understand that them days, when is the bright man in the class, the little girls in the class, it's a little routine. Who they go ask? Who you go ask for help? The fellas and them who don't know nothing? Nah, you had to ask me. Remember, I tell you, I'm afraid to talk to a woman. I initiated no conversation. So I had to be bright. If I'm bright, all you go had to come and ask me something about demand and supply. And if you demand, I go supply. So slow man, I say slow man trying to take my shine. What going on, slow man? And that slow man turned out to be Ansel, and just how he was then, same way Ansel is up to today. Ansel, if you ask Ansel a question, the first thing you will hear is, and then he go start to study what to answer. Then he will say, well, I think, listen, Ansel is always taking time. The man reasoning on point, so he need time to reason, and then when he answer, but no matter where you're talking to Ansel, but you're a knowledgeable fella, bright youth, and boy, just to put it in a nutshell, Ansel is a good man. Simple as that. He's a good man. And I know him for a long time. I know him before I know him, so I was just glad to be there and be a part of that. And I don't know, of course, I don't know Rowan as much as I know Ansel, but the little bit I see of Rowan is a good woman. And I mean, I hear much more in the church and in the ceremony, the speeches and everything was funny. I find, the speeches, sometimes everything don't flow too good, but everything flow nice. And the little bit I know of her and the more I learn about her, and I think she's a good woman. So everything was good. To see two people like that. And I remember at one point the priest was saying that for people who married, you will hear negative comments. He was saying something like that. You get married and then somebody pass by the church and say, boy, run, boy. Trinis. But as something I observe when we do because you have to do the photo thing, right? As a groomsman, you have to pose and you put your shoes so and all you watch your bride and who thing and who, you have to go through that whole motion during the photo ceremony. And the thing going nice. And one thing I realized is when vehicles pass, when we take any pictures, every woman that pass, say, oh God, you look so lovely, you look so beautiful, good luck, this, that. And every man that part at the Antec van pass, the man look out, he say, soldier, you know what you're doing? And next man pass, he blowing he on, he vex, he say, all you start, all you breaking, he lolling, he brought. I say, but oh, man and woman really had two different views on marriage. And I go to talk about it, But before I do that, congratulations again to Ansel and Ron. It's one of the best days I had in a long time. And it was a good man and a good woman and a good wedding. You can't beat a weekend like that. That was sweet. But at the end of the day, Slow Man still beating me. You can imagine Slow Man come and get married before me until the block is hot again. The man just make the block hot. I was just out the woods, I was just in the clear the other day. I say, well, I do episode, I make joke, I say thing. And then I realize, well, all right, everybody's still smooth, everybody's still happy. But until make the block hot again, the block is back warm. I had to ask a partner of mine and make sure. A partner there, I said, boy, you planning to get married anytime soon? I said, don't get married yet, I said, better let me be next because I ain't able to that. But the wisest words I hear in that whole wedding, they had real good speeches. The priest talked good, the host was amazing, everybody was good. But the wisest words come from a partner of mine, wife, named Giselle. And Giselle tell me, only live I feel I live. Giselle tell me something I never had figured out. Giselle say, men and women had two different views on marriage. I say, well, all right, that song true to me. That's kind of obvious. And what she said was, men like to put certain things in place in their life before they look for somebody to get married to. While women look for somebody to get married to before they start putting things in place in life. And I realized, but we have a real problem. This is an issue. I don't know how we solving this, I'm going to need some advice. I don't know how we solve it. Because nothing never ring as true as that statement to me. Because that statement about me is true. It had things, and I tell them openly, I say, listen, you see me, you have to keep in mind, I'm not no religious man and thing, And while I plan to be married, it wasn't, as a young fella coming up, that's not on the top of my priority list. There's no way I was getting married before I have a house. I'm not going to get married before I have a child. There's some things I told you, I know that's something kind of bad, but it's the truth. I wasn't doing that. I ain't doing that. I ain't doing that. That was never going to be my thing. And I think she's so right, because in my mind, every time I study marriage or think about it or be told about it or it be put to me, my first thought is, hey, we had to get it in place first. If we never certain amount of money and we not no thing and we not no investment, we not no house, we not no, what we getting married for? There's no way. Them things, that was not good. And you could see on the opposite side of the fence, women have a way from their 20s. They see that as a starting point. I don't want to make it sound like I saying woman looking for a man to put certain things in place in their life. I don't think it's that. I think it's more building together. So they wouldn't want to make certain commitments in terms of house and child and all these kind of things before they find somebody to get married to. So boy, me ain't know where the middle ground is past, no? But I know that a middle ground for me is when Ansel get married before me. The block is hot and we had to take some action. According to Ansel, from the time I reached him from that wedding, Saturday night, Sunday morning, I had to start to emancipate myself one time, according to my Ansel. It's emancipation time, so let me emancipate myself because the block is hot and it won't cooling down. But again, congrats to my boy Ansel and now my girl Ron. Many, many, many happy years, and we're looking forward to more and more lime, and we hope it's our carnival next year so we can play mass and enjoy ourselves and everything. And as we congratulating, I want to congratulate the political parties too who make it to this point. Because a good few of them, some people fall by the wayside. We had some casualties of war, some stray bullets and some casualties. So One of the casualties, Michaela Pandey, and next one I think Louis Leasing, he out it. Well, some people catch some strays too, because imagine Kenwin Jones now get a chance to go political party. The man done doing promotion and these things, and all of a sudden there's no more Kenwin Jones. You can't find Kenwin no more. He gets sidetracked with Michaela and them party. But the usual suspects back in. And I just glad to reach the last episode before election, to be honest. Because I think it's the last 2 or 3 episodes. It had nothing going on in the news in this country. You're looking for content and thing, good luck. Because everything you turn is an election this, and who said that, and who said blank man, and Fitzgerald cussing up this one, or somebody cussing the man for Fitzgerald Hines, and it's every single, and I'm trying to avoid it. I always see me dancing wrong this election issue all the time. I don't want to get into who is blank man, and who black man, and who vex with who, and who show up when, who was outside, but they come back, and they say he and she fall out. So when he used to make one set of noise in Princestown, he a little quiet now for the election. I don't know. I just glad to see we reached the wind down part. And I shouldn't even say wind down now, because like I could guarantee I'm recording this Monday night for Tuesday morning, and I'm sure at some point it's going to get wild this week. It's Trinidad. At some point, this thing going to get wild, and somebody going to jump out itself and say some kind of other thing, and it will be a whole new story going on now. And it's like just a few episodes ago, I take out, I say, well, whoever had the best song, I go vote for them. And I do a whole clash and I settle on who I'm voting on, but being honest, UNC step up the game. UNC go on to the next, all you have to go and look for it for yourself, because I ain't going through that clash thing again. Okay, and whatever the clash is, if we pretend I went through it, UNC win. All they could say whatever, who vex lost, all they could say anything. UNC win. UNC had, let me tell you who in UNC the played box. They have Meds Boss, they have Swanee, they have Plumpy. And well, from the time they have Boy, from the time I heard the Boy, I say, well, all right, I know how I voted. And I heard that Boy, I hope he record and Boy do a track for UNC. That I could be wrong, but I think that is an original track. Most of the other artists, I know Swanee for sure, they take, and Plumpy too, take versions of the song and turn it into a UNC song. Like how, I know Peter C had done some of that before when he sing over Footsteps, or no, PNM Family, when he sing a Telele version for PNM. But why hear Boy sing song original to me? That in song like no song he make over. That little fella talented. I remember that name Boy. I hope he stay with it and he do good and thing. But based on that song, I think we got everybody else have a week to convince me different. A week is eternity in politics, so you never know how it will go. But on the next, something I observe in the elections, right, that I want to talk about. I want to get serious for a quick minute and bring a little bit of, I don't like the word expert and expertise, but I want to bring a little expertise to the table to discuss something real quick. I'll give me a listen here. Bear me out. I saw 2 polls go down in the election during the campaign. One was commissioned by Guardian, and the other one was a Nigel Henry poll. And I want to talk about them 2 things one time. I'll go and get a little technical, so I'll have to bear with me. The first poll that I was looking at was last week. I saw some articles in the Guardian referring to a poll. So I'm going to put this out there one time. I am into market research. I study it. I have a company that does market research. I lecture in market research and everything. And I'm currently doing a program on data analytics. So when I see a poll or I see a research study, I know what I'm looking at and I know what I'm looking for. So the first one I saw was one that the Guardian had published, and they had commissioned HHB and Associates, which I reached out to HHB and they confirmed that this is a Guardian commission poll. Guardian puts it out there all the time as well. And it seems as though what they do is they get the poll, and based on the results, their journalists write stories. Because when you do a poll, it's typically you're trying to find out a lot of information or ask rich questions that give you a lot of information, right? Because once you get somebody who agrees to answer a questionnaire, you want to see how much information you could get out of them, so that you're not just asking one simple question and all you could publish is one thing. So they had their journalists, like they had Curtis Williams and Shaliza Hassan Ali. They were doing articles from since last week on that poll, and I find it was pretty good. And I like the idea of polling because it allows for both the parties involved and the electorate to get some idea of what is going to happen come the 10th of, what month we in? 10th of August. And both can adjust to suit. So for instance, the political parties could adjust their campaign based on what the polls say, and they do. And then voters could also adjust what they plan to do on the 10th based on what the polls say, and I think they do as well. So if for instance, there's a poll that's saying, hey, the party you're supporting behind, more people who might get out and vote. Or if there's a poll that says the incumbent party, like PNM in power now, they say, hey, the polls basically saying that the PNM going to win. What that tends to do is to cause people to not go out and vote. And I don't want to use the word cause too loosely either. The tendency is that if people are satisfied enough with the incumbent or the party in power, and they get information that the party in power is going to get back in power, the tendency is to not bother to go and vote because you're telling yourself, hey, they're in power, they're going and win again, they don't need me to come out. I have better things to do. Any day I'm busy, I ain't bound to go down there and vote, right? So that was the first thing I started observing, because the HHB poll had said that the first article that I saw that was published in The Guardian said that Rowley is slightly edging out Kamala for PM. And keyword there was slightly. Because in the article I was reading something, let me talk about how polling is done, right? Unfortunately, most people who listening to this would not have gotten a call or any survey done. Nothing wrong with that. That is standard. I hear people saying that a lot of times that, hey, who they polling because I never get a call. Hey, the likelihood of you getting a call is very, very low. And let me explain why. If I want to make a statement about how people behave or what people do, the best way to do that is to ask everybody what they will do. But it is expensive to ask everybody what they will do. By the time you ask everybody what they will do, the first person who will answer, their response could change. So it's a waste of time, and it's a waste of effort and a waste of money. Additionally, beyond a certain point, you're going to reach a point at which the results not going to change. So if I start asking plenty people, by the time I reach a certain number, asking more and more people, I'll realize the percentages staying the same. So if, for instance, I go out and I asking people, who you going to vote for, PNM or UNC? And I start asking that question to everybody in Trinidad and Tobago, believe it or not, after 200 people, the result's not going to change much. And I'm putting it to you too that after 500 people, it's probably not going to change at all. No matter how much more people you ask, X% will say PNM and X% will say UNC. And is a thing in research, you would have heard this term before, most likely, a term called sampling. That's what sampling is about. You only have to ask a specific sample of people to represent a population of people, right? So the population for election is the electorate. Let me say that again, right? The population in the case of a poll is the electorate, meaning people who registered and eligible to vote. So in this case, it's not everybody opinion counts. If you're under 18, you're not in the population. If there's some reason that causes you not to vote, like you don't have an ID card, you're not registered or anything, you're not in the population. So when I say population, you might think 1 million. But the population is really the voting electorate. And then there's nice little formulas, and you could Google it now these days too. You don't even have to work out nothing. And these formulas or this Google will ask you basically a couple things. They want to know what margin of error you could tolerate, because anytime you're sampling to make a conclusion about a population, there is some margin of error. You have to leave the room for that error or cater for it or speak to it when you're presenting the results. And they have something called a confidence interval. Now again, way too technical, right? But stay with me. A confidence interval, to put it as basic as I could, all you're saying is that I am 99% confident that the result that I publish in here it is true. And that if I run this study many, many times over using the same techniques, 99% of the time, we're going to get a result that falls in within this range, or we're going to get a result that is the same or similar. And as I say, a margin of error is just basically where any sampling, whatever technique you use, there's usually error built into that. Because, as I say, the best way is to ask the whole population. They call it a census. You would have heard that term before. But it is inconvenient. Doing a census before an election to predict who's going to win is a waste of time. Waste of time, waste of money, waste of effort. So when they said, that's what I mean when I say I know what I'm looking for when I'm reading a poll. And in this case, I can't get the actual results because, as I say, it was commissioned, so dependent on the article, right? So last week, Tuesday, in The Guardian, article by Shaliza Hassan Ali. A few lines I want to read here from the article. It said that it showed 57% of voters viewed Rowley as favorable, while Prasad Bisesa captured 53%. And then went on to say there is no statistical significant difference between Kamla Prasad Bisesa and Keith Rowley with respect to favorability ratings. Both have favorable ratings of just over half of those registered to vote. So when they say those registered to vote, they're looking at the total voting population, right? Now, when they say there's no statistical difference, even though it's showing Rowley at 57% and 53%, the statistical calculations that they're doing showing them that it is not enough difference to draw a conclusion. That is an important thing to look at, because it is easy to set when you publish an article, and of course with the article it has a certain amount of selling to do of the newspaper and the headline and the way it's published and so on. The headline of this article says Rowley edges Kamla in poll for best PM. But when you read down into the article, the person, the expert who is doing the study is saying that there's no statistical significant difference. And it's just based on the calculations. Again, going back to what we say about sampling and so on, you have to be sure that there is a difference between those two numbers you're looking at. Because, and I know again technical, but you have to stay with me and you have to put your faith in me here. When we do a study and we say that there's no statistical difference between two numbers, as a technical person, that is what I would lead with. I would not lead with anything that says, hey, yeah, 57%, you're doing good. We're doing this for marketing purposes. Imagine I telling a company that, hey, males prefer your product over females. They're going to take that and change the marketing material and the campaign and the targeting and try now to say, well, all right, well, we don't pay as much attention to females if it's males we have to sell to. But the thing about it is this: if I have males preferring your product 57% and I have females only preferring it 53% of the time, and I publish there and I say there's no statistical difference between the two, it might as well be 57-57. Those two things should not be shown as one better than the next if the numbers saying it not better than the next. So I want to point these things out, and of course there's no knock on HHB. I keep saying HMB. There's no knock on HHB, and there's no knock on The Guardian. The Guardian had to do what they had to do, and they commission a poll, and what they glean from the poll they should publish. But I want to put this out there because when you have a headline like that Rowley edges Kamla, that is simply untrue. There's no statistical difference between the two. So nobody has an edge over anybody in that situation. Now, there's something else I want to talk about too. Fast forward to this week, the Express had some polls, and there was a lot more done. I don't want to discount the work that The Guardian and HMB did, because there's a lot of rich articles in The Guardian that refer to that poll. So, for instance, beyond just looking, this is me talking personally now. I want to separate what I'm talking about from what in these articles from what I say personally. Personally, my belief is that a big part of the voting comes down to who are the leaders. And I'm saying this because a lot of times, if you ask somebody, just you try it yourself, right? You sometime during the day today, ask somebody who you know, somebody around, somebody you could talk to, not a close friend, somebody who's an acquaintance. Ask them, hey, who's your representative? Who going up in your constituency? I bet you 9 out of 10 times they will call one name. If you want to know who people are voting for, ask them who going up in their constituency. A PNM person going and tell you the PNM person. And a UNC person going to tell you the UNC person. Watch and see. There are very few people who will tell you they have Curtis Orr going up for the UNC and Keith Scotland going up for the PNM, and they have Fuad Abubakar going up for NNV. Very few people going to tell you that. Most people going to tell you one person, which is their mind and set. And a big part of that, by my observation, is because we vote party before we vote representation. So it's not so much about who the person is they send for our area. It's about the party that we want in power. And the reason I feel that people want a certain party in power, a big percentage of it have to do with the leader. Whoever is the leader of that party is who pushing them votes for the people in the constituencies. No knock on the constituents because they're doing their work, and I'm sure that they out there presenting themselves as a great candidate and this and that. But a big portion of this country mind made up already, one way or the other. So if your mind made up one way or the other, this might be the episode for you. Because there are some things I want to break down here so that we more aware of what we're seeing and what we're reading and what we're looking at. So I think the Guardian did a good job. They went down and they went into what are the main things people want out of a candidate. And for instance, they went down to Moruga Tableland and they gave some good pie charts and some charts breaking down basically what people voting for, what are the issues that matter to them, who is ahead in the constituency, and so check out the Guardian because I think they did a good job. And it's not just one article; it's several articles breaking down, and it's several articles by several journalists breaking down what the poll was and where people stand and so on. But I want you to read it with a little bit of the things, and please don't just take my word for some of these things I say. If you're uncomfortable with it, Google some of these terms. So you could see it for yourself and come up with it on your own, because we had to get a little more wise about knowing this process. We had to understand it because these things have consequences. And I get into that. I fast forward into this week now. Nigel Henry started publishing his poll, and the Express seems to be the one that is publishing more of the Nigel Henry polls. And it is... I'm not sure. I was trying to figure out, just for the sake of being transparent, whether or not the Express commissioned Nigel Henry to do this poll or he will do it independently. I want to hazard a guess, and I will clean this up next week if I'm wrong. I think he would do it independently because he's been doing polls for some time, and I remember him making predictions here when all the other pollsters like Selwyn Ryan and so on have been wrong, and his poll was the one that was closest to being right. And just to give a little background on him, I listen to him talk all the time. I have a huge amount of respect for him and what he does. And I think he's very up to date in his methods and the way he goes about it. And part of that might be because he said that he was working, if it wasn't working on the Obama campaign, he was working on the polls related to that whole political race. So he up to date with what is going on out there. And he started publishing polls this week, or he published his poll and the Express was reporting on it this week. Now, a big part I want to add to the things you were talking about where the marginal error and the sample size concern, I want to add a few things to that. The way you design the questions in polling matters. It matters in research as a whole. So it is very, very important that you are confident that the people who are doing the polling are unbiased, because it's very easy to make a question biased. Like, for instance, if you walk up to him and ask him, lawyers talk about this all the time, you ask him, how often he has beat your wife? It's a hell of a question. It makes the assumption that the man beating the wife. So questions could be clean or sterile or not leading in any way, or they could be very, very leading or misleading according to how you look at them. And both of these pollsters so far, I mean, I have no issue with them, but I want to keep in mind that with neither of them, I was able to see the instrument. And it's one of the things that I feel we need to do better as a society. If we're doing polls, why the instrument that doing when I say the instrument, I mean the questionnaire. Why is the questionnaire not made available for the general public to see how the questions were asked? How did you frame the question? That's a critical part of whether we should believe the poll results or have confidence in the polling results at all. Now, I've taken that for granted that the questions were framed well because of both very reputable companies in this case, or research units. So I've taken it for granted that the questions were framed well. So with Nigel Henry's poll, there's a few things that are slightly different. I'm going to read directly from The Guardian, And it seems as though he's the one who published the article himself. And this is published on the 1st of August. And what he said here is with just 1 week to the August 10th general election, the People's National Movement is ahead of the race by 5%, according to the latest pre-election poll conducted by Solution by Simulation led by pollster Nigel Henry. Very quickly in the article, he say, hey, well, let me just explain. He's saying PNM is ahead by 5%, right? It was 43% versus 38%. So you're seeing where the 5% come in. And he even went on to say almost immediately, it's better than the poll's margin of error of 4.5%. So in other words, he could draw some kind of conclusion here. He said, while modest, the PNM's lead is still larger than the poll's margin of error, which says that it telling me or signifying to me that is a genuine lead he talking about there. It could be as small as 0.5%, or it could be as big as 9.5%. If you take 4.5% plus or minus 5, it's getting too technical, so I ain't going quite there. But he also said that, and I read a few articles on this poll, so I understood how he came up with the 16% of the electorate being undecided. I think is a great piece of work, because he was saying basically that they have a portion of the population that undecided, but they have within the undecided people, he was able to pick out people who are undecided but leaning on one side versus the next, versus a 16% who genuinely undecided and don't know where they're going or going to vote at all. I think it's a brilliant piece of work, because then it's telling me, hey, and it's telling, and again, remember that the poll is talking to the parties and it's talking to the electorate. I am not a political party, so as a person in the electorate, I hear, all right, they have 16% of people like me who don't know who to vote for, don't even want to vote, disenchanted with the process, don't like the concept of the better of two evils and so on. But I'm willing to listen, I'm willing to see what both sides say, and let me hear what is happening and hear what the issues are overall. Now, when he does a poll, one of the things beyond, he said that they interviewed 473 people. So they sent a voice record. It seems as though it's a telephone survey. And they call people and they get the responses, right? Remember I tell you, beyond 500 in this country at 1.5 million people, the results not going to change. So 473, I could tell you off the bat, that 473 number, that good. If you poll in 473 people, that result not going to change if you poll all 1.5 million. So that's solid. You could believe in that from where I'm concerned. So when I know he doing a poll like that and it shows the PNM as slightly being ahead, it kind of, when you look at the two now and you put them together, you're starting to see where it might well be that the PNM slightly ahead in the election based on where people sit. And he also, one of them was saying that basically one of the main issues people were seeing was the country's COVID response. And based on the COVID response, PNM was showing some favor. I guess, well, it's a funny thing to me, because if you're judging COVID response as an important issue in the country and deciding on which political party to vote for, it makes me realize, hey, you could only do one or two things. Is either you say the government do a good job and you go with them, or you say the government do a real poor job and you go with the opposition, which seems obvious, right? But think about it this way. The opposition did not respond to COVID. From where we sit, the opposition really, what was their response? Is what they put out is really rhetoric. Everything that we did or were asked to do or mandated to do is really controlled by the government. Now, go back to what I was saying earlier about how polls affect voting. And I want to make a few suggestions here that you should take into consideration. When the incumbent is shown as winning, the electorate tends to get, or the total voter turnout tends to be low, is usually a good sign for the incumbent party. And when the total voter turnout is high, it usually signifies some kind of change. And also, if there are polls that are published that show a very big lead with the electorate, you tend to find that people want to stay home. They already understand that the party they like, which the poll reflects, they're going to win, so why bother? They're going to get a landslide victory and everything going to be smooth. So I know I'm beating that point to that, but we have to take these things into consideration, because let me talk a little bit about marketing here for a while. But forget the politics for a minute. Stay with me. It's a long story, but it's going somewhere. In marketing these days, what we tend to do, and you would have seen it yourself, right? Like the other day I do this episode and playing Song Clash like a fool between UNC and PNM and ILP and PEP and all these things. And now my YouTube going berserk. I can't watch a good little video on YouTube. I like to watch my little Breakfast Club interviews. It's mayhem on YouTube now. Because every time I go on YouTube, guess what I see it? It's a UNC thing. And a PNM this is a lot of it. Every ad I turn on, I can't watch a YouTube video in peace. You probably having this experience too. But I feel like it's bad on my side, and I understand why. Because I spent a long time searching in YouTube for UNC political song, PNM political song, who were running for which thing. I'm doing this research all the time to do the episodes. So I understand that is basically targeting me because it realized I already interested in the electoral process. They must can't figure out which side I am. They know if I am the 30, the 16, they know which percentage I am. So everybody showed me advertisement. It is annoying like hell. And now when I go on the website to watch the newspaper or anything, it's a picture only down. So I keep Scotland, a Vandana more hit. I can't get away. Everything I see now is a UNC or PNM ad. You tell me if you having that experience too. My guess is that you probably are. Now, most of us understand why we seeing that. Because it basically have an algorithm in the background trying to check what you do and trying to predict what you're going to do next and who would be the best people to advertise to. So if I watch basically, and it goes deeper than just what we look for on YouTube, a lot of people now say, if I only talk about something, all of a sudden I see in the advertisement for it. You always seeing that happening? That's a pretty common thing. And it's because when you talk about something, it's not only your children listening or your husband listening, Alexa listening, Siri listening, Google Assistant listening, your phone, those things being recorded all the time. So when you start talking about something and you see ads about it, it's because everything you talk about is more data that you feeding into a profile of you, and marketers like myself using that profile of you to determine if you would be willing to buy a brand new car in 2020. And that's what it comes down to. You think about it. You think about the things you buy on Amazon. All those things tell a story about who we are. Go as far as what you talk about and who you meet and who you're close to. Because as soon as you meet somebody now, Facebook suggesting them as a friend. Me ain't a friend with them, but Facebook putting them up as a friend. Go a little further where the things that you like on Facebook or like on Instagram, helping feed that basic profile of you, and you giving this thing more data about what you do and what you're likely to do. Now, some of them algorithms, we call them predictive algorithms. This episode is as technical as it gets. I hope this making some sense to somebody out there. But these predictive algorithms, you'll probably hear about them already. They're trying to take all the data that you feed to them for free and trying to predict what you're going to do next. And mostly in the marketing case, I try to predict what you would buy next. Because if I could predict that you're going to buy a car every 10 years in your life, I will try not to spend too much money advertising to you in years 1 to 8. Because I know it's a waste of time. I have a pretty sure idea that you will only buy it at year 10. So I might start to advertise to you somewhere around year 9. I might even try and speed up the process and see if I could get you to buy it around year 9. So I have a strategy that made specifically for you. Because if you see my YouTube page, I'm going to be seeing different ads than you seeing. Now, what the hell all this has to do with the price of rice? Them things I don't see it as a big deal for me because I'm willing to give up as much data as possible because it's make my life convenient. Every time I jump in my car, I put in ways to find out where I go in so I could beat traffic and them things. All them things is data because Google know me well by now. They know where I will be, where I'm likely to be tomorrow, what I'm going to do. They know what I'm going to do probably better than me trying to predict what I'm going to do tomorrow. Now, we go talk about that in some episodes to come because I don't know if that is good, bad, dangerous, ethical. I don't know what you want to call it. What I know for sure is that it happened. And you experiencing that already, I am sure. Now, forget all that about marketing we just talked about. How does that affect the political process? Think about this. You think if Google and them understand how much milk you're going to buy next week and how much egg you're going to buy And when Massey collect all that information you're giving them for free on your Massey card about when you buy groceries and what kind of credit card you have and where's the average amount and where you're living based on which store you come to most often and which part you have a next house going on and a whole next family because you're buying milk and pampers up the road. So they have all that information already. You think that the political party is not going to use that information? Think about it and tell me now. Flashback to when all of us had watched that Netflix documentary the other day and they were talking about Cambridge Analytica. And they were talking about it with respect to Trump, eh? But in the middle of the Trump thing, they say in Trinidad and Tobago, we test the thing and the thing work. Because we realize that one party, the people that listen to their parents and they go in and vote, and the next party, them will, if you get them disenchanted about the process, they will stay home and they will not vote. I should repeat that. The Cambridge Analytica thing said that they were able to understand that first, forget people who don't decide UNC and pay them. Just like me. I'm not talking on this podcast to people who already make up their mind long before. I'm trying to talk to the undecided. I'm trying to make more and more people undecided, so I want everybody come in the middle. Because the person who already make up their mind to go and vote for PNM or UNC probably not going to change their mind. So why advertise to them? It's the same thing like the car. If you know the man going to buy the car between years 9 and 10, don't waste your money. McDonald's, let me give you an example. McDonald's say, here what's going on. Forget all this other advertise we doing. We only going to advertise between 11 o'clock and 2 o'clock. Why you think? Because they realize man is only study fast food and they're hungry. So nobody to advertise whole day, advertise between them hours, and they were very successful in their campaign in the States. So the political parties start to realize through Cambridge Analytica and the same data that we give them, they start realizing it's a waste of time trying to market ourselves or campaign to people who are already decided what party they're going for. We're going on campaign to the undecided people. We're going on campaign to people who we feel we have a chance to convince one way or the next. We're going and market to people or campaign to people who in that 16% that Nigel Henry talk about, who undecided genuinely and maybe looking for information to vote either one side or the next or to stay home. Because remember, the stay home is our option. I tell them only for the longest while me voted. The stay home is our option. So when Cambridge Analytica say, we look at that 16% undecided and we study them. And when they say study them, they study what you're talking about, your Facebook page, where you like, where you do, where is this. So they know where's your gender, where's your race. They have an idea how much money you're making, where you're living, where you just go. What's your philosophy? You're religious or you're not religious? We give them all these data points for free. We tell them everything about us for free. So Cambridge Analytica going to companies like Facebook and Google, which are the big boys who store in most of your information, and they're trying to determine, based on this undecided, what's the best way to convince them to vote for the party that hire me to do this marketing for them. I hope that makes some kind of sense. The political parties, to me, both of them, are clearly doing this. It's clear to me in the campaign efforts that is what they're doing. So remember, let me go back all the way to the beginning of this thing. Remember when I said that UNC win out the thing because they're using Swanee and Boy Boy and Plumpy and Meds Boss? If you listen to this podcast long enough, you understand who is the demographic that Swanee and the whole Zessa movement talking to, right? You understand that already. Now, why are they using them in their campaign? Could it be that the UNC is campaigning to tell people, don't vote? Just like what we had seen in the thing for the 2010 campaign that they said in Cambridge Analytica. It seems so to me. It seemed like, and if you're willing to go and listen to the content of the songs, you go and listen to it on YouTube. Because for the life of me, I couldn't understand why. I keep trying to figure out why political parties in this country don't campaign on real issues. Why they don't come and talk about the issues? Why is always attack this one and what we find in the treasury in 2015 and who mash up this and who stadium stay there and who hospital? I trying to figure out for the longest while and the answer right in front of me all the time. The reason that they campaign based on these things is because the algorithms or the analytics that they're doing is telling them that what we care about as a population is the peacock and the bacchanal. They are not going to continue to do this if it's not working for them. And I tell people all the time, people like me and probably you cannot win no elections for no party. Elections is won by the masses. Elections is won by no educated and no nice society people and all these kind of things. Election is a thing. Is popularity. Is who could get the most votes, who could garner the support of the most people. And the most people are not the ones who spend a whole set of time in college and who could sit down for an hour to listen about confidence interval and margin error. They can't win no election for nobody. So while you might think your vote counts, it probably does. Don't let me make you feel like your vote in counts, because your vote counts, yes. As people love to tell me, so many people died for the right to us to vote and so on. So you use your vote how you see fit. But I just want to put it out there that if there are polls that are saying that they have one party ahead of the next, which would tend to make people stay home and not vote, and then one other party is campaigning to try to get people to not vote, you add up the thing. And I believe that I seeing pretty clearly where the PNM campaign lies too. Because they went and get Muti and Trinidad go something to do a little thing and do the PNM and do the dance and thing, and boy Rowley doing the little PNM dance and stuff too. They trying the same thing too. They different strategy to me, but it seems to me that when you put in people and go back to the starter, it's when you put in people like Jason Williams and Mervyn Dillon and Cleopatra Burrell, and so although some of them in workout and Gypsy, a big part of your campaign is to do with getting that 16% to come out. So it's like one group making an effort, a marketing effort, or a campaign effort to get certain people to stay home, and one group trying to get people to come out. But neither group, like White Chalk does say, seem to be campaigning on the real issues that are affecting these same people, and they might be too in it to see it. So that's why I take this whole long time in this episode to talk about this. I hope it don't fall on deaf ears, and I hope some of it makes some kind of sense, because I was back and forth if to talk about this, because though my goal is always to keep this light. I want to keep this thing. I don't want this thing to get too heavy and too. It's a lot. But I hope it making sense there, because campaigns are not run anymore with no jersey and no $100 and thing. That thing is a long time thing. You see that idea of Raman Roti politics? That is not it again. This campaign and these campaigns running via social media and they're running via YouTube. And a lot of us who are decided, undecided, or what, who above a certain age will not see any of this, because we still watching TV and watching advertisement and watching a little Facebook and this and that, and we not seeing the same thing that somebody who is between 18 and 25 seeing. And you flash back your mind to when you was 18 to 25. Sometimes the person who talk loudest, or the person who look the best, or the person who song the nicest, or the person who get the most, song like what they saying is the truth. Because I hear things going around in these campaigns that on both sides, that from the time I hear it, I say, no, that's not right. But again, I can't win no election for nobody. I am not the demographic or the I'm not falling into the category that is win people elections. So I went into a whole long thing today, and I promised myself I'd never do this, but it's 1 week before election, and I want people to understand. If any of this making sense to you, tell me. And if it's not making sense, just observe both campaigns for me. And those are the things and the reasons why the politics is, I can't take it, because sometimes when I could see so clearly what is happening and the clear effort, I don't even want to say to deceive or anything like that, but there's no the betterment of the society or the individual and so on. It's seldom at the forefront. It's seldom at the forefront of what political parties doing. Let me add a little thing for you to observe for me too now. Because we have a tendency when we discuss in politics, in our little groups and thing, when we know the little political banter, we like to talk UNC and PNM. But I want to say something. Like, I listened to Uncle Jack Warner on Boom Champions Monday morning with Rome and Jade, who been interviewing some candidates. And when you hear Jack this morning, and let me get some credit to Rome and Jade too. When I first heard he going on Boom, I was studying about Boom. I trying to figure out who going to listen to Boom on a morning, but boy, I had to give, when I hear his Rome too, I was like, Rome, who the parang man, this man interviewing politician, but Rome do a real good interview. Rome and Jade have something going on that morning show, and everybody know most mornings I listen to Blaze and Jade, well, Blaze, and even the callers who calling in to talk to Uncle Jack this morning is the caliber of the questions and things, they was more serious, they sober, and it's not the whole kicks thing. I really enjoy it. And they asked Jack the pertinent questions, basically like, hey, where have you been? You been here from you in a long time. What make you go there? And he going for Aruka Bonnier, right? And he was Aruka Lupino Bonnier, I think that's the name of the seat. And he was saying basically that, hey, I never went nowhere. I always say I helping people and this and that. And he said he's been around. And what make him come out of the woodworks is that, or the political woodworks, is that the political parties didn't see it fit to find somebody in the area who young and enterprising to put up for as a candidate. But they put us the people who from out the area. So he said what he came up with for ILP is for him to run, and he have 5 years to train up somebody from the area and put them to run for the seat when he leave. Now, I find it was a reasonable answer because I myself was trying to figure out what's going on with Jack Warner, and I have in my mind, I've been given Jack Warner very little chance at anything. As always with this thing, I always say, boy, listen, this is UNC and PNM country and nobody can come between that. It's always hard when they talk about third force and all these things that almost non-existent if you ask me. But when I hear Jack talk this morning and take calls, and politicians is politicians, they're charismatic and they could appeal to people and things, and I hear him talk and people calling in the radio station, caller after caller, to say how great Jack is and how much he's helping the area, whether he in power or not. And he not in the politics, but he's always been helping, and he always available. Any hour you could come by him. That's things we hear about Jack Warner for years, and that's something I experienced with Jack Warner too. I'm going to tell you my experience with Uncle Jack. I was working on a project with Sony Electronics. And they wanted to do some work with the local football team at the time. And the Soca Warriors had come off for the 2006 World Cup. And it was the next campaign for 2010, right? So sponsors and teams, or sponsors and brands and everybody, at that point, they want to work with Trinidad. They want to see if you could get on board with that team that qualified, smallest country in the world to qualify for the World Cup and all that. They were there. So we were doing some work with Sony. And the president of Sony from Puerto Rico, president of Sony Latin America in the country, and this man watching me, we have a little contract with him, and I telling this man we could get this done, we could get that done, and he said, boy, we want to sponsor Soca Warriors. Well, as a Soca Warriors man myself, I excited to work on that. Boy, I call, that time was TTFF or TTFA, whichever one it was. I called them, I went meeting, I said, listen, I want to get this done. We have a sponsor here who wants to put money into the football. Boy, you talk about back and forth. We back in and we fought in and we going nowhere. And I thinking, but what is this? This man gonna leave the country with all his money. And I studying, we have a little 20% to collect on whatever deal we make. So I trying to get this thing done, boy, and get his deal sealed. I'm talking to all kind of people in there. And the day he was supposed to leave the country, this is the Sony president, I get a call early the morning, but it had to be, must be 4 or 5 o'clock the morning. And they asking if we could meet with Jack Warner at 6:30 in the morning. So I said, but what is this? But I had doubts now because my phone ringing 4 o'clock and I frightened. From the time I hear my phone ring, I say, well, all right, this is problems. But it turned out to be them calling to say, hey, you want to meet at 6:30. And I had to try to get this man in Hilton now and wake this man up. And this man is upset. This man's like, Corey, who has a meeting at 6:30 in the morning? And listen, that man was upset, boy. But I said, listen, if we had to do this deal, we had to go and meet with them this morning. And we can't be late for that. Let's go and let's get the thing done. If you leave the country and we don't meet with this guy, but he don't know who's Jack Warner, so he ain't studying that at all. So eventually I convinced him, boy, and I get him to come. It was hell to just get him to wake up, but he come to the meeting. And When we were in the little waiting room, you're seeing trophies from this, pictures with Mandela and Joao Haviland, and you have a whole setup in the little waiting room and keys to Atlanta and this city and that city. And boy, my boy, he straighten up his jacket now. He say, we're meeting with a very important guy. I say, yeah, this is a very important guy. It seems as though we can't get the deal done without him. And we went in, we had the meeting, and listen, we just writing up deals. It's like deals. It's like, hey, yeah, we'll do this, we'll do that, we'll give this, we'll get this kind of branding, this with the players, we'll do that, and boy, thing going smooth. And I just counting, well, all right, 10% of that, 20% of that. I say, well, things sweet. But one thing I will remember with him, and that I won't forget, is that when we were doing the introductions for that meeting, he was going through the names. He was going through everybody's name. We might have been 4 or 5 of them from Sony and myself from here. And it's only Spanish names. So it's this one, Rivera, this one, like Agosto. And he going down the line, and he reached me. I said, well, Corey Shepard. He said, well, all right, that's easy. All right, good, Corey Shepard. So that was that. Later on the evening now, we were supposed to have a press conference to launch the campaign for the football team. And we wanted to use that as an opportunity to tell, for the media to know that Sony was one of the sponsors of the national football team, Soca Warriors. And when we got to the press conference, it was in Marriott. And I talking about this meeting was 6:30. We must have finished the meeting by 7:30, 8 o'clock. And I knew when it was 6:30, this man come out of meeting to go to that 6:30 meeting. It's not like Jack Warner wasn't coming there for the meeting. He was there already in meetings. The press conference would have started sometime evening time. If it's not after 6, it's probably after 5, 6 o'clock, because we're trying to get on the news that night. And when that man, after that meeting, 8 o'clock, and that introduction, I went down there to try to organize things for press conference and this and that. I do must 100 different things today. And when that man walked into Marriott, this Jack, Uncle Jack woke up to me and said, Mr. Shepard, how you going? Everything in place? I thinking, but this man remember, I nearly forget his name from this morning, but he remember my name and all the Spanish names he was plainly struggling with. He walked up to everybody and called them my name. So it's no surprise to me when I hear people on Boom Champions talking about how they could get a meeting with him and they get to see him and anything he asks, there's help. Because the man is personalized things. And when he say he going and deliver on things, he going to deliver. So in the political space, that was in the football space I meet him, but in the political space, I would think that he even more smooth with them things. Because if you, sometimes as constituents or as citizens, you're going through something, you're frustrated in the area, sometimes all you want is a little here and here. And Jack had a reputation when he was in Chaguanas West too for helping people on his own. So he directly reached out and helped them and used his own money to do this. And I a little iffy about them kind of things. But what made me realize this morning is Jack is from, I knew he was from there, but it seems as though he's been building this support base for a long time. So my thing is, beyond everything that was said in those polls, I putting it out there, like you had to watch somebody like him who could get that kind of response, because I remember nobody giving him a chance in Chaguanas West. Another man I think people have to watch for the elections too, as is next week. They have a fella in Tobago who running a party called the PDP. I think he's a man to watch, I think he's a man to watch, especially, I have plenty faith in Nigel Henry. You don't get that already, right? And when he making statements about how the undecided voter, in other words, he's saying that the government not safe. Let me put it like that, right? I hate to paraphrase what he's saying, but he's saying that the government not safe. He said that, let me quote him rather than paraphrase. He said, with 16% of the likely electorate still undecided and with fierce competition in swing constituencies in both Trinidad and Tobago, the opposition parties appear to be still within striking distance. And I think so. I always feel is a vote out and not a vote in. So if you're disenchanted with the party in power, it ain't gonna be surprising to me if people go out and vote for the opposition and get them in power. But you see, the fella in Tobago, hear what Nigel Henry had to say about that. I think it's him who wrote the article. He said, and with regard to the big question on how Tobago is likely to vote, the poll analysis says that while the poll's sample size is too small to give a reliable estimate of support for Watson Duke's Progressive Democratic Party, or Patriots, the measurable support it did receive from Tobago voters in the national sample suggests a strong showing by PDP is not out of the realm of possibility. And I've been watching Watson Duke campaign all the time. Watson Duke campaign heavily focused on the youths. it probably started when he swam from Trinidad to Tobago. So he's been on the ground campaigning for a long time. So if there's a case that they have people who are going up as candidates and now starting to walk in constituencies when the election was called last month, I think you're going to have a problem with people like Jack and people like Watson Duke, who was on the ground for the whole time. But it will be left to see by the time we recorded the next episode. I know we have results, and it's just things I want to put out there because, again, this episode was more for the undecided voter than for the decided voter. You decide who you're going out for, you're within your rights. Go and vote and support your party. But if you're undecided, these are things that we all have to take into consideration. The last thing I'm going to say about this election thing, I want to put this on record. And for as long as I'm doing this podcast, every time my election coming up, I'll say this. I do not believe that an elected representative should be appointed as a minister. I think it's one of the things we have to change in this country. When you run in a constituency like Port of Spain South, you do not have the time or the end. That is a full-time job. I don't know how you could run that and run the Ministry of Housing. I don't know how you could be running San Fernando West or San Fernando East and be the Attorney General at the same time. I don't believe in that at all. And I believe that separating that will give me an opportunity, which I want, to be able to vote for my area representative separate from the person who is going to be the Prime Minister. I don't like the system where the person who wins the most seats gets to appoint the Prime Minister. And the Prime Minister will obviously be the leader of the party. Unlike what Watson Duke say, Watson Duke basically say if he had the deciding seat, because the election could come out 2021, like what Jack was saying this morning. If the one is Watson Duke say he ain't joining no party unless they make him Prime Minister. I don't know how he going with the minority seat and getting a Prime Minister work, but that's what the man say. But my thing is, if you're voting, and let's say you're supporting the blue party, but the purple party, you find the person who they put in your area is a better representative based on their history. They have always been in the community and they have been working for you, and they know it was an activist and they're helping people and they do what they have to do in the community already. If you are a supporter of the philosophy of the blue party, you had to vote for a representative who you seeing as worse in order to get the blue party in power. I don't believe in that at all. I find they should have a separate election for the Prime Minister or the people who are going to lead the country. Let me vote for Kamala and Rowley separate than when we vote for representation at the MP level. And let me do the local government election and leave that, just like how that's separate, we could do that separately too. But boy, as much as I like that, it's a hard thing to have to go through more elections to hear more noise from all these sort of old truck and all these flyers stick up all about. And I mean, it's just be too much of work, boy. But anybody who didn't see that Cambridge Analytica thing I was talking about on Netflix, the name of it is The Great Hack. So go on Netflix, on people Netflix, if you can, share login and thing. Check for The Great Hack. The Great Hack was the one where they talk a lot about, it wasn't based on Trinidad, so bear with it. It's just before the halfway point. But what they were talking about is how analytics and the amount of data that we use, they use people like Facebook and Google and so on to get our information to do predictive modeling about what will convince us to vote in different directions. The main thing they were talking about is Cambridge Analytica influence on Trump and him winning the election. But it also spoke about things like Brexit and how people might have been manipulated. And then they spoke about our local election here. So watch that Great Hack on Netflix, and you'll see some of the things they're talking about, and maybe they'll say it in a way that better and makes some more sense to you and clearer. But understand that is my firm belief. I'm not any marketing for either party, of course, but it's my firm belief that both parties are very strong on the data that they collect about the electorate, particularly those who, like myself, consider myself undecided, and my options is to figure out if I should vote or if I shouldn't vote, and if I decide who to vote for. So just check it out. Check it out on Netflix. It's pretty good. And I have a gross on Netflix overall. Let's come out of this politics. I'm trying to not be on YouTube no more until after Tuesday, because I set myself up. I'm just seeing too many ads now. I can't go through it no more. So I've been trying to follow up and catch up on my Netflix watching and them things. And there was a movie, there's a movie I watched on Netflix a few weeks ago just to avoid all this, called Fatal Affair. It's one of the worst movies I ever seen in my long-legged life. I don't understand how they still make these movies about. It's like when Jennifer Lopez had done this movie Enough, was it? And Beyonce had done another movie, I think, like Obsessed. I think whoever it is, they should stop making them kind of movies. But this one was this fatal affair, and this man, and listen, I don't know why, boy. Somehow, when I like to see black movies, there was Nia Long in it, something, but boy, the acting sometimes is be lame. I don't know, boy. I don't know where these comedies things. It's just so lame. So I say, you know what? No more Netflix movies for me, because I went through my thing with Massimo, and now I have to see Omar Epps is about 75 years old. It looked like, I think it was Omar Epps and Nia Long in that fatal affair. I can't watch no more of that. So I went back and I started looking for series to watch. And I had a debate with some people the other day, and I would love to hear how we all feel about it. I was saying that Ozark is one of the greatest series they ever do. And I can't wait for Ozark to start back. And somebody was telling my boy that ain't nothing compared to Peaky Blinders. But you know, I don't like the Peaky Blinders so much. I mean, it's so, the movie, the series itself kind of dark, and is old Britain or wherever they are. I mean, it's alright. I mean, it really has some depth to it, but oh God, boy, the dark, and I just give up at a certain point. It's like, listen, it's a pain. It's like I have to concentrate so hard on every episode to figure out who is all these different white people and decipher these accents and things. So it starts off good and thing, but I find the Peaky Blinders, it ain't ready for Ozark. Narcos, I kind of watch out. I watch over the whole of Narcos again. Narcos Mexico is something else. I'm not seeing any date for when Narcos starting back or Ozark starting back. I find like now is a good time, because as much as this COVID looking like it rising back up, I think they said we have like about 39 active cases now. I heard the CMO and Dr. Parasaram. I mean, as much as I could salute that man, I salute that man. That man is cool as ice. And Dr. Hines, that man is just get the job done. Yes, no sort of frill, no sort of thrill. They just solid, boy. I mean, I like guys like them at the helm while we're going through something as serious as this. But they closed down how much schools now? They say 8 schools closed down now. 5 police stations closed down. They had to, I believe they say Gary Griffith get tested as well, and with the police stations closed down, I suppose maybe he was exposed, he was tested and came back negative. And I mean, but I'm pretty sure Gary Griffith, they're talking about him. Gary Griffith have Tourette syndrome. It had to be. I think Gary Griffith had Tourette's. There's no doubt about it. Because last week, coming to think about it, he was applying to have, I think it was a football tournament. I don't know if it's police football tournament or among policemen or whatsoever it is. And whatever the COVID restrictions were at the time, I believe Terence D'Alsing and they had limited the amount of people that could play at any one game to 25. And this man went off and like in the papers have an article saying Gary Griffith saying that like Terence D'Alsing don't know nothing about sports, and they're handling this thing badly, and only 25 people, like we have no medical, so we had to cancel it. On this man is talking like a child who you tell he can't get something about the Minister of Health. I had to ask, I was on Facebook asking, like, this man knows his job title or what is his position, and he went as far as to say, well, we're waiting to see what happened to CPL. We're going to enforce these same rules. I was thinking, what level of pettiness is this? And on top of that, I see Gary Griffith meeting with CPL like in the beginning of this week, just to talk about security and stuff he providing for the teams. And I'm thinking, you are the person who in charge of talking about this after making a statement like that in papers about the Ministry of Health. Almost like I go do your back. If all they care, if you wait, I'm trying to understand what Gary Griffith's saying. If your football tournament can run, you threatening to shut down or do some little extra policing on the CPL, I know, boy, this is something else. Some things that's happened in this country, you wonder if this, you wonder if you're in a dream and you're waking up and somebody wake you up out of a nightmare, because to say them things about a sitting minister of health when you are the sitting police commissioner, it had to be Tourette syndrome. But anyway, and we digress. So I went back to Narcos and I watched out the whole of Narcos and thing, and I'm looking for series suggestions. I can't find nothing on Netflix worth watching. So I saw somebody who was telling me, like, even when I was asking about Ozark versus Peaky Blinders, somebody had suggested Breaking Bad. No Breaking Bad real old, but remember I'm trying to avoid these election ads and things, right? So I happened to go back to it because I watched the first episode of Breaking Bad and I just see all these sort of white people and who going to met and all this kind of thing, and I ain't know nothing about that, and maybe I drop asleep and I ain't watch it and think, but boy, thanks to whoever suggested Breaking Bad, because I like only like on episode 3 or 4, but the storytelling hard. I mean that break. If you never see Breaking Bad, go back in time and check it out, because I just, like I say, I early on it, but I hooked. Like I want to come home and check out what's going on in the next episode, and it is not. When I first watched it, I find it was looking slow, and I was totally out of touch with it. But boy, listen, it hooked me, and I think one of the, like, you know what it remind me of as a series. Not that these two things comparable in terms of the plot or anything, but Sopranos was like that. I find Sopranos is one of the best series I watch, because Sopranos, and it's old to us, so don't get too excited. It's nothing new if you never hear about Sopranos. But what Sopranos had done better than any series I had ever seen was Sopranos went, and while the main character they were following his life, Tony Soprano, it had real side stories and plenty going on, and they just keep building more and more characters. And it's like when they introduce more characters, you you're leaving every episode intrigued and trying to figure out what's going to happen next. And I find Breaking Bad well, I shouldn't say surprisingly, because when I saw so much people saying it good, I said, well, I had to give it a next chance. It had to be that when I watched it at the time, I must have dropped asleep or I wasn't paying attention to the plot, because I wasn't expecting that when people say this thing good is about some methamphetamine and them kind of white people thing. But I taken it in now, and that Breaking Bad really good. So I think what I'll do is watch Breaking Bad all the way till whenever I had to film the next episode, just so that I don't have to say nothing or do nothing to do with elections, and I'm not tempted to jump back on this mic before election to say anything or to clarify anything that I said in the last episode. And what I'll do is when we hear again and we're talking about what happened in the elections, maybe I'll break down some of the things. I mean, let's see. I'm eager to see what happened in all the marginal seats. I'm following Jason Williams because we're going to need him back on the morning show. Eager to see what happened with Watson Duke and Jack as two people who, I don't know, the ground swelling or the support might be there that I might not pay much attention to. And I will tell all you what happened with me during the week to see if I went down by the polling station and I decide to vote, or if I decide to stay home and do the regular thing that I do and just take my 2 hours off and relax and watch 2 episodes of Breaking Bad. But I'll let you know. Have a great week. Next week we'll talk.